This is Denise Kennedy of Holly, Colorado. Denise, can you tell us a little bit about your family's operation?
Sure. In 1963, how it all got started was my dad started purchasing farm and grassland. And then as years went by, we just kept accumulating more. And then in '78, my brother and I formed a partnership. And eventually, we bought a feed yard. So this is a 40-year process in the making with our operation. And as we were going along, we kind of heard about some gravel easements going on in 2003, 2004, but not much was discussed. And then also my dad had been approached by a gravel company saying that they would like to purchase the feed yard. And we always knew that there was gravel beneath because when we purchased it, some of the guys that drilled the wells, they knew the land and all. And we just kind of avoided that because that was our headquarters of our whole operation. That's where we took everything. That's where our hay barns were, irrigation, alfalfa, everything. You name it, our feed was grown there and everything. So that was the bulk of the whole operation, was that feed yard. And so as time went on, we just kept going along, and heard the bits and pieces. Well, during this time, we'd been suffering in a drought since 1999. And as we moved these cattle to pastures, we would have to supplement. Well, there you have it. Our alfalfa is being raised under these sprinklers. We were able to do that, cut our costs because we could raise our own feed. We could raise it actually pretty cheap. And so, anyway, that's how we did that through the drought season is, we would have to supplement. Of course, it was expense because there was no grass for the lack of moisture out on these pastures. And as things kind of kept going on, we finally built our cow herd to 602. And in December of 2006, when we thought things were finally starting to look up, and maybe we'll start getting a little moisture on these pastures and the expense is going to get a little easier for us all, then all hell broke loose. And in 2006 of December, we were hit by a blizzard. And with this blizzard, it just devastated the whole county in this area. National Guard was called in to do hay drops. They had to break open the roads to get to your cattle. And it's like I said, we had 602 mama cows at the time, expecting between 550, 560 calves to be born. And so this pretty much crippled us for a long time. And we had 18 inches of 18 inches of ice underneath this incredible amount of snow that we had received in this area. So we were in a mess. And finally, the snow started melting, but this took off clear till March. I said, you did not see ground till March. And I mean, that's no exaggeration. That's how bad it was. So then we started moving all our cattle to our feed yard. And we had lost several baby calves due to, the mothers aborting, the stress factors, freezing, because these frigid temperatures went on, till March, till spring. And so finally, like we said, we moved these cattle to our feed yard. And so things were kind of plugging along. We'd taken a big loss again. But then Mother Nature struck with a vengeance. And a tornado hit us almost exactly 3 months to the day that the blizzard hit. And our feed yard took the direct hit. It was the main target. And when it did, we had reports of people hearing our cattle bawling as the debris hit them. We had boards sticking out the sides of them. I mean, it was absolutely horrendous. And then, when we went up to look at all the damage and saw that our irrigation sprinklers were gone, parts of them were slung over a mile down the road in my little boy's best friend's bedroom. I mean, it was terrible. Cattle were all over, and it was just a mess. And like I said, we had to put down so many cattle because they were so injured. And of all the things, this was their sanctuary, this was their refuge, and they were gone. And so it gets pretty emotional because it was such a loss that I'm looking at my dad, and he's 77 years old. And here we had built a cow herd, 602. At the end of the tornado, we were left with 72 head. And out of our 550 calves, we were down to 262 to put on pasture. And I'm sorry, it gets emotional, but 40 years of this, of blood, sweat, and tears, that, natural disasters happen and you got to pick up and go on, and, that's what we did. So eventually, we went to the bank. The bank knew of our situation, and they said, you've suffered a horrific loss. And we said, gosh, we're just to the point we want to sell out. This bank said, don't do that. Have you looked into these gravel easement programs that the state of Colorado is offering? Dad said, we've heard things, but we didn't want to get rid of the feed yard and that kind of thing. We didn't want to do that kind of stuff. We didn't want to tear up and mine it. This is the bulk. This is what we need for these pastures. And they said, well, you get to still preserve it. It stays in your family. You get these tax credits. It's going to turn around and it's going to help you financially. Help you pay this debt off, and you guys can get back on your feet, because this is 40 years. You can start all over. And so Dad kind of ran it by us, and thought, well, if that's all we can do, that's all we can do, because we've already have such a financial load anyway. And so then the bank, told us, he said, whatever you do, when you go to get these easements, you follow it to the T. You get the most reputable appraiser or land trust, whatever you got to have, you get it done and you do it right. I said, that's, I don't have a problem with that. I'm in a mess now. If this is the way it's got to be, you bet. Said, we'll finance you. We'll pay for those easements. We'll carry it. We'll go along with it. I said, okay. So it was ironic. Dad had to go over and get a windmill fixed, and he got to talking to this lady, and he was talking about the tornado and the blizzard and how it had affected us, and we were just financially kind of in a bind, but we got to keep up and go on. He said, these conservation easements, because I happen to be an expertise on that kind of thing. Dad said, oh really? He said, yeah. He said, this could help you out. He says, well, our bank suggested it. And he said, I'm just kind of getting my feelers out, wanting to talk to people and see what we can do with this. And she said, well, I might can help. She'd mentioned a few names who they'd done work for, so Dad went and called these people, and there were people that we knew, and visited with them. They said, yeah, they were real happy, and, things turned out like they wanted and all. And, of course, they'd upped the ante. The tax credits were, at one time they were $250,000, now they're at $375,000. So Dad said, well, we'd be interested in doing it. So we contacted the lady again, and she had all the particulars done.
So Denise, your family decided to go through with the conservation easement program. And what kind of an investment did your family have to make, and what position does it leave your family in now?
Well, actually, those investments for each one of those easements are a little over $30,000. Some are a little less, but ours was drilled twice. It was core drilled twice because the results came back with great numbers of gravel underneath this ground. And so they wanted to make sure that was correct, and of course it was, they said, so that we were charged a little more. And now the position that we're in, as we closed the deal in December, had everything filed, getting ready to sell our tax credits, they were unable to sell. So they're in the position now that Colorado was breathing down, revoking license, revoking appraisals, saying that they were mishandled, and so we thought, okay, we haven't sold our tax credits, we're in good shape. So we thought, maybe this is a blessing in disguise till they get this thing straightened out, because this is in disarray. And so anyway, now they're telling how the program is totally a sham. Colorado promoted this. We did exactly what we were told to do. Can't sell our tax credits. But as I'm visiting with our accountant, I said, he said something about using our tax credits for the little bit that I owed on self-employment. I said, Dale, I don't want to use them. I said, that's just going to trigger an audit. I said, all these people are under scrutiny right now. And he says, Denise, you have to. I said, what do you mean I have to use them? I said, if I use them, that's going to trigger an audit, or they're going to come in and demand that I pay them this much back, and they're going to, I said, I don't even want to get in that position. He says, no. He goes, they've got you over a barrel. If you owe it, you don't write them a check, you use your tax.